following presentation is meant for informational and educational purposes only. Please do not attempt to recreate any denial of service attacks seen here on any network devices for which you do not have explicit consent. Use of scanning and denial of service tools without consent is illegal, may cause damage to network infrastructure, interfere with an organization's business operations, and may result in prosecution. The creator of this presentation bears no responsibility for actions taken by anyone outside of the educational venue and scope of this video. A denial of service attack is one in which the regular stream of communication between an organization offering services online and its clients is disrupted intentionally by individuals with malicious intent. The attack could be a complete halting of services or simply causing them to slow down significantly. Denial of service attacks are probably the most common form of network attack, due to the fact they are the easiest to set up and they are almost impossible to anticipate. Aside from load balancing countermeasures, there is also little you can do in response to such an attack, other than restart network services and adjust your firewall settings. Denial of service attacks are usually the tool of choice for hacktivist groups who are looking to make a statement against certain government and military organizations, such as the Pentagon, CENTCOM, or even the Veterans Administration. In this video demonstration, we will be carrying out two different kinds of denial of service attacks using different tools. The first of these attacks will be conducted using a tool called ipconfig. This will be a Syn Flood attack. The second attack will be carried out using a tool called Low Orbit Ion Cannon. Low Orbit Ion Cannon is a GUI-based tool that gives an attacker an option to attack a victim server with HTTP requests. These attacks will be conducted in a simulated environment using two different virtual machines within the VMware Workstation environment. The victim virtual machine will be a Windows XP computer workstation. The attacking platform will be Kali Linux 2.0. We will be capturing the data packets from both of these attacks so they can be analyzed later. Let's begin attack simulation 1. In this first demonstration, we're going to attack our Victim XP workstation, which you can see in your screen right now, using a Syn Flood denial of service attack. Before we launch our attack, we need to do three things on our simulated victim machine. First, we need to open a DOS prompt window and get our current IP address by entering ipconfig/all. After you get your IP address, click on the desktop link titled Big Meter Pro. This is a CPU workload meter. This will demonstrate what happens when a flood of Syn packets hit this computer. The last thing that we need to do is open Wireshark. We won't start collecting data packets until we're ready to launch the attack. The last thing that we need to do on this machine, as well as the attacker machine, is to check the network settings to make sure that the adapter is set to NAT. Next, we need to go back to our Kali Linux attack platform, and one of the first things we have to do is go into the settings and make sure that the network adapter is also set to NAT, just like our victim platform. And it is. So next, I'm going to open up a console window, and I'm going to enter the statements that are going to launch the denial of service attack within ipconfig. I've started the statement off with the proxy chains invoking statement because this will start the Tor proxy services. The ipconfig command invokes the use of the network attack tool. The -A refers to the fact that we're going to be spoofing our source IP address. The IP directly to the right of the -A is a made-up IP address. The IP address immediately to the right of the spoofed IP address is our target. The -I followed by the U1 refer to the customizable interval that can be used to send the transmission of packets. The -S means that we're going to be sending SYN packets. The -P refers to the port number where all the packets will be sent, which in this case will be 445. Before I launch the attack, I'm going to start Wireshark so that I can capture packets while the Syn Flood is occurring. On the left side of the screen, choose your capture interface. On mine it is simply listed as local area connection, but on yours it might be displayed as something else. Now that my Wireshark is capturing packets, I'm going to go back to my Kali attack platform and I'm going to launch the attack. After you've returned to the victim workstation, you're going to notice immediately that the CPU meter is maxed out, and if you look in the upper pane of the Wireshark application, you're going to see lots and lots and lots of black SYN packets, TCP labeled SYN packets. So at this point, before everything gets maxed out, I'm going to try and stop the collection, which we did. I'm going to go ahead and also stop the attack, which I can already hear the fan going because resources are being exhausted. I'm going to go back to my victim, and now that the packet collection has stopped, I'm going to go ahead and save this packet capture to the desktop. You do this by going on File from the top, and you go to Save As, and then from the drop-down you're going to pick the second option, which is Wireshark TCP dump. And just give it a simple name like Syn Flood. Alright, in the next section we're going to analyze our packet capture. I had to restart the victim computer so that all the resources could go back to functioning normally, but I opened our packet capture file in Wireshark. Just for the sake of review, I'll briefly go over the basic navigation of this tool. The upper portion of the screen, just below the toolbar, is the packet preview pane. It is here that you'll get some of the primary pieces of routing information. Along with a timestamp, you'll see the source and destination IP addresses, the network protocol that's associated with the packet length in bytes, and supplemental information. The center pane of the screen contains the payload information for each packet. Just click the plus sign to the left of any of the elements on the screen and it'll expand to display more verbose data about the data packet in question. The lower frame on the screen contains raw hexadecimal content. The sizes of the 3 frames are adjustable. Simply click on any of the borders and drag them up or down to expand or minimize the display size area to meet your analysis needs. You can also customize your view by clicking on View on the toolbar and altering any of the options there. There are a few things I wanted to go over concerning this packet capture. First, I wanted to bring your attention to the packets that are highlighted in red. These are reset packets. I'll go over these in a little more detail in the second packet analysis later in this video. The second item I would like to point out is the IP address, 32.12.6.64. This is the fake IP address that I used as the source address when I launched the Syn Flood attack from HPing3. I plugged this address into Google to see if it was actually legitimate. The number corresponded to one in Lake Mary, Florida. I made this number up on the spot. If I had been someone with an actual malicious agenda, This would have been a little too close to home to serve as a ruse for authorities who were looking to track me. What I'm going to use now is a Wireshark display filter. It's a series of commands employing a syntax which allows someone to view only desired data packets based on a specified criteria. For example, in our case, we want to see only those packets which demonstrate to us that this was a Syn Flood denial of service attack. To that end, we want to see only the TCP SYN packets that were sent in this capture. I will now enter the commands to create this filter in the filter box at the top of the screen. I'll briefly translate this expression. We want to view only those packets whose protocol is TCP and whose SYN flag is set to 1. This means that it is recognized as a SYN or synchronized packet. SYN packets are used as part of the three-way handshake that all computers use to initiate connections with servers. During a Syn Flood, an attacker floods a victim server with an enormous amount of SYN requests. Each one of those SYN requests takes up resources while the server waits idly for a response from the sender. The sender, in return, never sends a reply. As a result, all the resources get used up and response time starts to drag until the server eventually crashes. I will now execute the display filter. So as you can see, there are over 300,000 SYN packets. This was not enough to crash the computer, but it instantly slowed down performance noticeably. The CPU workload meter was also maxed out completely. This is the data packet signature of a Syn Flood attack. The remaining section of this video will cover another tool which performs a different kind of denial of service attack. See you in the next section. This next denial of service demonstration will be carried out using a tool called Low Orbit Ion Cannon. The claim to fame of this particular application is that it was the tool of choice for the hacktivist group Anonymous in a number of attacks, including a campaign waged against the Church of Scientology back in 2008. The tool is most effective when it's used in a coordinated effort in a distributed denial of service attack, meaning that the attack must be launched from multiple machines using the same tool. Low Orbit Ion Cannon was written in C# and is GUI-based, so you don't have to enter a long string of commands to launch an attack. Its ease of use is probably one of the reasons it was the tool of choice for subversive groups such as Anonymous. Today we'll be using it to simulate an HTTP attack performed against a simulated web server. In order to simulate a more basic version of a distributed attack, I have opened 3 console windows. Each of these windows has been assigned to a proxy server in a foreign country. This one will be routed through China. The window behind the GUI which is currently displayed is routed through a proxy in Pakistan. The terminal window on the bottom is routed through a proxy in Ghana. This will not be enough to crash our simulated victim machine, but you'll still be able to see the effect of the attack. One thing that should be noted is that while we're capturing data packets during this exercise, the IP addresses of the proxy servers will not show up in the packets. The actual addresses of our virtual machines will still show up. This is because we're running this experiment entirely on a virtual network behind a firewall. If this attack had been directed externally, once the packets went beyond the firewall, the addresses of the proxy servers would be displayed on the receiving end of the attack. It should also be noted that this application causes Tor services to crash on Kali. I mention this only to demonstrate a point. Not everything that you attempt to run through proxy chains and Tor will execute successfully. This is one of the reasons that many hackers will perform test runs before actually carrying out a cyber attack. Attackers want to ensure that their proxies work and their tools function in the desired environment. Before we go to our simulated victim machine, I'll show you how to bring up the low orbit ion cannon GUI. After you open your terminal window and enter your proxy information, enter the following commands. But first you have to make sure that the application is installed on Kali. Now let's go to our victim machine and set things up over there. This is our victim machine, the Windows XP workstation. Just as before in the Syn Flood demonstration, we need to get our IP address, which you can get from a DOS prompt window by typing ipconfig /all. Our IP address is the same as it was before, 192.168.229.142. I've also included a CPU workload meter so you'll be able to see what happens when the attack starts to have an effect on the victim machine. Open Wireshark by double-clicking on the fin icon on the desktop. Before you start packet collection, check the virtual network adapter to make sure that it's set to the NAT configuration. When all this has been set correctly, choose your interface from the box below the green shark fin on the Wireshark GUI by clicking on it. Then click the green shark fin to start packet collection. We're now back in the Kali attack platform where we're going to launch our attack. In all three of the low orbit ion cannon GUIs, you'll enter the following values. First, in the URL field in the upper left of the pane, you'll go ahead and you'll enter the IP address of our victim. Then in the bottom center of the GUI, in the drop-down list labeled Method, you'll go to the drop-down and you'll select HTTP. Then, going back up to the top part of the GUI, you'll click on the button labeled Lock On to the immediate right of the IP address we just entered. Then you'll click the large button which is labeled I'm a chargin' my laser. Now you're going to repeat these steps for the other two GUIs. You can see on the first one it's already starting to send packets. So we'll go ahead and fill out the other two and send them as well. Now that we've launched our distributed denial of service attack, let's go back to our victim computer and we'll see the results. Alright, we're back now on the victim computer. Depending on how many attackers are participating in a particular distributed denial of service attack, it could take a few moments or a little bit longer for a CPU to start showing signs of strain. The attack that we've launched here is not going to cause this computer to crash. However, it will use up a significant amount of the resources. As I said previously, this attack is more effective the more participants are involved. The HTTP attack was designed to take out vulnerable web servers by forcing a large number of dedicated connections to stay open. The attack is a combination of TCP connection packets and HTTP GET requests. We're going to go ahead and stop the packet collection by clicking the red square up to the immediate left of the green fin. As you can see, our CPU meter is also close to maxing out, and it may take a moment for the packet collection to stop. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and save our packet collection by clicking on File at the very top from the menu bar. Then go down to Save As. And then from the drop down, we're going to pick Wireshark TCP dump. You'll give it a name and you'll save it on the desktop. Then we'll go ahead in the next section and we're going to do some analysis of these data packet capture files. In this section, I'm going to go over some basic analysis of the packet capture file that we saved in our last denial of service demonstration. The first thing that you'll notice is the fact that the attacker's IP address is the correct local address. It does not identify with any of the 3 addresses that we assigned while invoking proxy servers. Had these packets traversed outside of the firewall, the address ending in .147 would have been replaced by one of 3 different IP addresses in Ghana, China, or Pakistan. The next thing that you'll notice are the types of protocols that are being transmitted across the wire. These are all TCP, or Transmission Control Protocol, and HTTP, or Hypertext Transfer Protocol. The HTTP packets are all web page GET requests. The TCP packets are all trying to establish connections with the server. If you'll remember, when we launched Low Orbit Ion Cannon, we selected HTTP as the type of attack. The modus operandi of this type of attack is to create as many connections as possible and to keep them open to bleed available resources. I mentioned reset packets previously in this video. Seeing an abnormally large number of reset packets can be a good indication that some kind of attack is taking place in your network. I am now going to use another Wireshark display filter to demonstrate this idea. The display filter that I added is TCP flags.reset = 1. What this means is that we want Wireshark to display all of the reset packets. When I kick off this filter, it's going to take a few minutes to process, as there are approximately half gigabyte worth of packets to sort. As you can see, there are an enormous amount of reset packets in this capture. This capture file covers a period of about 10 minutes or so. Reset packets are a normal occurrence in the everyday transfer of network communications. When they are seen in an ordinary flow of traffic, they represent part of the normal breakdown process of a connection. When they are seen in very large numbers over a short period of time, it is a hallmark indication that something is very wrong with your network, and very probably that it is under attack. This is just a brief demonstration of some of the things to look for in a data packet capture to find evidence of an HTTP attack. As it was said to me not long ago by someone who was relatively unfamiliar with the full scope of denial of service attacks, I had no idea how easy it was to do one of these. When you think about it, all you need to conduct a basic denial of service attack is a free tool which you can download almost anywhere, another free tool to hide yourself online, click a few buttons in a graphical user interface, and you have all you need. This is what makes events such as these so dangerous. The most an organization can do to prepare for such an attack is to implement a network architecture that will serve as a kind of padding to minimize any damage inflicted. You can't stop them entirely. Even if you are prepared somewhat, you'll still have some kind of repercussions. Recent history is replete with these attacks. Many of them can be attributed to hacktivist groups looking for attention. This was never publicly confirmed, but the comically simple internet of North Korea was shut down due to a denial of service attack when Kim Jong-un made threats because he was angered about a Seth Rogen movie. Anonymous was thought to be one of the suspects. Like it or not, these kinds of attacks are a fact of life in the information age. As network administrators, analysts, and forensic investigators, we must be prepared for them. This ends the presentation.